work is going to change. It's going to change more in the next 5 years than it has in the last 20 years. Undoubtedly. Jobs are going to change. Undoubtedly. But like the human capacity and the human capability, I think what many people miss is AI and things like AgentForce and a lot of the stuff we're doing with Slack. It's really about giving people a capability upgrade. And with that capability upgrade, they can do so much more than they couldn't do before.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the AI Download, your weekly recap of what's happening in the world of AI, including the stories and leaders behind the future. I'm your host, Shira Lazar. I'm the CEO and founder of What's Trending. And before we get into the show, a big shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Profit, suite of AI-powered SaaS software and services designed to empower and support the next generation of human-led, AI-fed communications engineers working in the PR, social, and influencer marketing space. You got to learn more. Go to prprofit.ai. Profit, human-led, AI-fed. Also, Highlighter. They're your AI-powered reading assistant, bringing you smart, personalized insights so you can spend less time scrolling and more time doing. Now, today on the AI Download, we're joined by Ryan Gavin, the Chief Marketing Officer at Slack, where he's shaping the future of AI-powered collaboration. You know, Ryan's at the helm of integrating generative AI and intelligent agents into the way millions of us work every day on Slack. So let's get into the show. Welcome to the AI Download. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, sure, man. Thanks so much for having me. It's so great. I'm so glad to be on the pod.
Yeah, and this is a very big week for you all. I mean, some big announcements from Slack we're going to be getting into later in the show, right?
Yep. We got a lot of cool stuff coming, but yeah, happy to talk about whatever and whenever.
Okay, that's a tease, everyone. So stick around. First, we've got a quick look at some AI headlines for this week. Okay, this is from NPR. A recent high-profile case of AI hallucination serves as a stark warning. So this is what's going on. A federal judge just fined two MyPillow attorneys $3,000 each after they submitted a court filing filled with hallucinated legal citations, aka fake cases generated by AI. Ooh. Okay, well, this is the kicker. They didn't initially admit they used AI. And the judge wasn't buying the oops, wrong draft excuse. That's like the new my dog ate my homework excuse.
Totally.
Right? And it's actually part of a growing trend of lawyers getting in trouble for unverified use of generative AI, with over 200 similar cases tracked since just the spring. That is wild. One, I'm sure you're making sure your lawyers don't do this, right?
I just sent him a note, just like, this is all news to me. So I just had fired him off now.
Yeah, you should actually copy and paste this, like FYI. But, you know, AI hallucinations are still a big issue. And for some people who might not know what that is, it's basically when your AI goes out of whack, like it spews out wrong answers that don't make sense. So I guess, is this something that you're looking at even at Slack?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. One of the things that we do, and anytime we use AI in Slack, we're actually looking at the conversations that are happening in Slack. So it's, when we're using AI, it's based on those conversations that are happening. And so whenever we have an AI answer, we have the citation for where the model got that context from. So if I see an answer, I'm like, it doesn't look quite right. I get a link right there that takes me directly to the conversation that the model used to generate that AI answer. And I can kind of verify it. I can say, oh, okay, got it right. Maybe I was wrong. Or actually, you've interpreted this incorrectly. Here's the actual source.
No, and I love that. So thank you for sharing the citation part. That's really cool and needed. So let's move on to this story from Reuters. The EU's AI code of practice for companies to focus on copyright and safety. So this is what's going down. The rules kick in August 2026 for new models. It applies to companies like OpenAI, Meta, and Google, and many others. And the signatories must disclose training data and tackle systemic risks. So they are signing up to say, we want to be part of the change and creating solutions, not continuing to keep things behind closed doors. What is your take on this? Because obviously you're a US-based company, but you are also a company that is used by everyone around the world. How are you working with AI compliance?
Yeah. Well, I think that particular act, is really focused on a lot of copyright issues with like the public LLM models that are training on internet data. Slack's obviously very different. We look at customers' data, which is customers' own. It's their data. It's theirs to do with what they will. And so our job is to keep that data safe, secure, and private, and do so in a very transparent way. We're never going to train an LLM on your data. And so the idea of your data going outside of the walls of your company just never becomes an issue.
Yeah, and love that. Very important. And I think that this stuff that the EU is doing will set a precedent. It'll be interesting to see how this goes down and if it's helpful, because maybe it could help the way that we deal with this stuff. I don't know. Just saying.
Transparency in this space is a very good thing. So the more transparency we have, the better. The more, there's still a lot of lack of trust and a lot of what's happening here. And so that's an important trend for sure.
Thank you. You're a great exec. Okay. From CBS News, Indeed and Glassdoor to lay off 1,300 workers as AI shakes up job search business. So this is pretty big. So not only are jobs being cut from companies, but even the hiring business is being hit by AI. I mean, I guess as a company that needs to have people there, humans there to use the product, what do you think about AI taking over businesses and jobs?
Yeah, I don't think it's taking over businesses and or jobs. I think the headlines here can be a sensational thing, but I think, obviously work is going to change. It's going to change more in the next 5 years than it has in the last 20 years. Undoubtedly. Jobs are going to change. Undoubtedly. But this is really about like human capability getting an upgrade. And I tell you what, if you're a small business, this is the most exciting time ever, because small businesses can start to act like large businesses that typically were out of reach because the scale and resources they had. Small businesses now have access to that same scale with all this AI agents and autonomy. So it's pretty exciting time. And all that growth, what does that do? It generates jobs. It generates things for people to go do. As the small companies get bigger, they need more people. So I think it'll all net out, but there is going to be change for sure.
This final story is from Payments. Reddit post reignites debate over AI's role in medical advice. So a viral Reddit post claims ChatGPT flagged a genetic mutation doctors missed for over 10 years. This person went to multiple doctors, x-rays, MRIs, did not figure it out, but ChatGPT did. And a doctor later confirmed that. Is this something you do? Do you use AI for diagnostics?
Oh, dear. Well, man, I am not a doctor and I don't even get to play one on TV. So I'll be careful with my comments here. But listen, I've got to seen, as many people have in this space, observed AI doing amazing things, cancer screenings and its ability to pick up and early detection, things that would be very hard for humans, even like incredibly well-trained humans. So as a tool that we should be using to deploy to help an industry of doctors and nurses that are overwhelmed, overworked, don't have enough resources. Yep. Like, amen.
Yeah, no, I agree. I am one of those people, I'll say it, that has gone to AI. Like, I'll take a picture of something on my leg. Like, oh, that's weird. Is that a bug bite? Is that I don't know. Eczema, what's going on? Yeah. And I'll take a picture.
Last night's dinner, the distress, all that.
Yeah, they say never Google things because then you get, there's that dark side of the web. Like, do not Google your symptoms because you'll find out weird things. I feel like AI's not as bad. So definitely go to AI first. Don't go to Google. Google's a downward spiral. AI is a bit more reassuring. Those were your AI headlines for this week. I am with Ryan Gavin, the CMO of Slack. And let's get right into your big news because you all have a lot going on. So what is the big announcement? What's going on?
Well, there's a lot that we have coming out, but the really cool thing, kind of building on some of the stuff we were talking about, Slack is part of Salesforce, and Salesforce has this incredible platform called AgentForce, which is a platform for building out digital labor, building out digital teammates that can sit across your entire organization. And agents is kind of the buzzword du jour, right? Like, you kind of have to take a shot every time you hear the word someone say agent. So like, I get it. It's all AI agents. But there's something actually pretty cool that happens when you take agents, you take something like AgentForce and you bring it inside of Slack. And this is something that people aren't talking about as much. What most agents get to use is limited data sets. So they can maybe use the public internet data, which everyone has, or they can use what's called like structured data. So like, let's say if your workday, here's the day you were hired, here's your pay, here's your performance review, like structured data or things that might be in your CRM. But the gold for agents is an unstructured data. Conversations. This conversation, this is gold because it gives agents depth and context and reasoning and insight that you wouldn't get just from that structured data. So what happens when you bring agents inside of Slack, they can get to tap into the long-term memory of your company. They get to see that first Slack message you sent, as long as it's public and permissioned. They get to see the presentation that was sent to the customer 10 years ago. And you can use all that as long-term memory for that agent to learn and reason over, so that when it's there to take actions, to provide insights, to proactively suggest a next step for you to go do, it's all the more relevant.
I guess the big thing people would think of as privacy, like are my bosses, is someone going to know like the private messages between me and the other person if I said something bad?
Totally. So the way these agents and AgentForce works inside of Slack is it inherits the permissions that you have. So Shira, if you're in Slack and you've got access to a whole bunch of public channels in your company, it can see those. And then let's say you have access to private channels that you have, it can see those. But we're really thoughtful about how that agent interactions. So let's say you've deployed a sales agent inside of a channel with you and a bunch of colleagues, and you want to ask that agent a question inside that channel. So you can say, hey, can you summarize the IBM account plan? What's the latest opportunities that might exist? Now that agent is going to respond, but the agent is going to just respond to you first. So you, Shira, are going to be able to see that response privately. And then you can decide whether you want to share that agent's response back into the channel.
What if I'm a smaller company, right? How would I use this in Slack as well?
Yeah, I mean, let me take an example. EasyCater, which is a business catering company. They're looking at, they use Slack. They're growing their company every single day. Part of their concern is like, hey, how do we scale without adding just a ton of overhead as a small business? Like that's always a concern. And so they have a number of times when customers are requesting pricing checks or refunds or anything like that, and they have to go process that, and that's a human that has to go do that work. Well, they built an agent with AgentForce. They deployed that in Slack, and that agent can then handle those inbound requests. And they've given it a set of knowledge and data, and they've empowered it with a set of actions that it can go take. So when those inbound requests come in, this agent can now shield it. Now, what's really cool is this agent will come back with a recommendation to the human employees at EasyCater. And because it's built in Slack, it's human. Like, part of Slack is just this, it's a delightful way to work. And so if the agent comes back with a recommendation that may be a little bit too high or maybe out of bounds of where they want to go do, the human employee can just respond with like a thumbs down emoji. They can just use an emoji to tell the agent, actually, no, that's a little too high. I want you to go back and rework that. So like you can interact with these agents in very, very human ways and very fun ways, but are ways that are allowing you to scale your business in really meaningful ways. They're not as small now, but Anthropic, as you know, is a company that's using AgentForce and Slack for their deal desk. So how do they accelerate the deals? How do they get the deals that are coming in with human and agent collaboration? And they saw like a 60% improvement in the speed of the amount of deals that they could process when they deployed AgentForce and Slack. So whether you're a small company, a mid-sized company, or a big company, every department can benefit with this like digital labor that can be deployed right alongside humans.
I'm going to say, is the onboarding, you're like in the platform, and then do you just open it up? Is there somewhere you open up and say like onboard my AI assistant? How easy is this?
Yeah, it's remarkably amazing in terms of, the AgentForce platform from Salesforce is this low code. You can go through and build out your agents. You can wire them up with your data, et cetera. And then what would happen in this case is your company's admin or your IT staff would deploy those agents down to Slack. And so when I open Slack in the morning, just like I could see you as a teammate, I can see all my other teammates. I have a tab that says AgentForce, and I can click on that and I can see all the agents that are available to me. And what's really cool is those agents have skills that are identified with them, just like I would know that, Shira is an expert in communications and being unbelievably charming and being, Emmy nominated, So
there you go.
So I could see that the agent, this is a sales agent. This agent is an expert in understanding account plans, helping to summarize account opportunities and generate account briefing docs. And so I was like, I can go through and browse. We have engineering agents, we have onboarding agents. So then I can just deploy those agents just like a teammate. And that's what really makes it kind of special in Slack, or not even kind of special. It makes it very special is, we have this principle called don't make me think. And it's one of our design principles in Slack. It's like, it should just work. And so when we design agents that run Slack, they work just like teammates. I can mention them. I can add them to a channel. I can ask them to take an action in natural language. And I don't have to learn a new pattern in practice. I don't have to know a new way of working. They're just there. I can see their skills and I can deploy them just like I would talking to any other teammate in Slack.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. Don't make me think. I am that person. Like sometimes I'll just start um, working on something, especially with tech or AI, where someone's like, "Try this out," and you see it online. It looks so easy, and then you're like an hour in. What's
Yeah.
going on? This is not as easy as they acted like it was.
Yeah.
And so anything where I could just wake up, one, it already has my to-do list. It's already drafted things, and I could just tell it what to do, and I could even do it on a walk. Like
Yeah.
that's for me, that is my ideal. I want to get into the fact that Slack did just release some new data showing there's a 233% surge in daily AI use, and that daily users are 81% more satisfied at work, which is really cool. But I want to know, are we moving into that uh, from busy work to deep work, or just getting better at multitasking?
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. If you look at all the tools that have been released over the last like 20 years, all the new SaaS applications, you see them, talk about them every week. It's mind boggling, and it's been exponential, the growth in number of tools. But if you go and you look at, there's so much research out there about employee productivity. Like employee productivity has actually improved very little. And 30 to 40% of people's time is still spent looking for stuff. Like I can't find the information I need for my job. The average person in the enterprise is spending, between 11 to 13 applications that they're swivel chairing from day to day. If you just think about your own, like I go from this app to this app and I get distracted, I go to this app, I got to go find it in this app. And all that context switching is wasted time. So, we still are operating in a pretty broken system of work, if we're just really honest with ourselves. And even this last year, with all this explosion of AI, like 70% of all AI projects failed. They failed to meet the expectations that the teams that were deploying them set out to. And the reason why is because we're just layering on stuff on top of a broken system. It's like adding a chaos monkey. It's like, hey, you got a broken work system. Let's add in a bunch more and assume it'll make it all better. And so to answer your question, you do really have to step back to like fix this problem. You do have to reimagine work. And one of the things I like to talk to my teams about, one of the things I talk to customers about a ton, is I said, okay, whatever process you're doing, whatever company you're running, whatever line of business you're responsible for, how would it look different if you built it today in the age of AI? How would it be if you started it right now and you weren't constrained by any of the things of how you used to do it or all the things, all the code that you've written to date? And if you can kind of take that beginner's mindset, it really does force you to reimagine a lot of these systems and patterns and practices. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think anyone's getting a 3-day work week anytime soon. Like I haven't seen even the most advanced companies be like, cool, everyone gets to go home early. We will fill the time, but we will fill the time with more productive, higher value, greater return for the business type of activities when we can successfully deploy this technology. And we, see the promise of really getting out of this broken work system that has plagued us for the last 2 decades.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that it's hard when new things happen. You tend to, even from a smaller business angle. My company, What's Trending, we create content daily, and uh, even that is a ship that I need to move very slowly. I have a very small team, and still I have a hard time just saying we're going to scratch everything. We're just going to go to here because you have people working on stuff. They have their agreements. Like there's so many layers to still go through at even a small company
Yeah.
level, that I love the idea. And I've done this in meetings where I have said, if we didn't have our workflows, we weren't doing what we were doing, but we had to start from scratch what we would do. And it does take a mindset. It's really difficult, actually. It's more difficult than you think for people to think from scratch like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess what tips do you have for people to do that in this new era? Because clearly you've been able to do it. You run teams, you're at the CMO level.
Yeah, it is not easy. And it's not easy. And, there's companies that will specifically, we work with many that will specifically kind of warden off a small part of their company to go off and say, hey, figure out how you would disrupt us. If like the company is going to continue to run, but you go figure out how you would disrupt this company, how you disrupt ourselves. And you're unencumbered by anything that's happening. Like, so there's techniques out there, certainly for doing that kind of at scale. In some cases, you just need to create the space for people to reimagine and encourage them that, hey, I want you to try to reimagine this process. And it might fail. It might fail 3 or 4 times, and that's okay. But if we get it right, this could really be transformative. So you got to create some, safety for people to try something different that does feel uncertain. And that is part of the challenge with all this whole period is everyone's approaching AI with a different starting point. There's some people, I bet you a lot of people who are listening to you are AI enthusiasts, love it, leaning into every tool, excited about it, etc. But we have to be honest, there's a set of people out there that are nervous about it. There's a whole set of people who feel like, is it okay to use it at work? Is this cheating? If I say I'm using AI, does that mean I'm less valuable and maybe I'm not as important to the company and that puts me at risk? And
Yeah.
there's a lot of EQ emotion that comes with this technology that we have to just be aware that everyone has a different starting point. And as leaders, part of our job is to create that, safety for them to go and experiment and try these things and know. And, my team knows, hey, if they're not using these tools, they're not meeting my expectations. So I have things where I'm like, hey, if you're bringing me a piece of content maybe or something you've produced, I want to know what the grade you got in Gemini was or ChatGPT. Like, how did you grade it? And what was the grade come back? And like, how did you refine it based on that? Like, that's the expectation. I expect everything to be graded by AI before we do anything externally with it.
So let's get into the marketing side of it, because I feel like every company is marketing a new AI. How do you stand out as a CMO? What is your strategy here to make sure people know about you versus all these others? I mean, there's so many, from big companies to, as we know, like new companies popping up every day.
Yeah. Well, I think there's really 2 tiers of it. One, at Slack, one of the things we've done recently is we built, well, it's now well over a dozen new, like what we call native AI capabilities that just flow into Slack. And we've integrated those into all of our pricing packaging plans. So as you purchase Slack and as you kind of get higher and higher plans, you get more and more of these native AI capabilities. And these things just show up and they just work. And so to our earlier kind of conversation, I think the expectation in the future is all these incredible tools are just going to be AI enabled. And we have taken this point of view of like AI that doesn't make you think. So we have AI search right inside of Slack. It's an enterprise search capability. I can search not only all my Slack, but I can search all my connected applications, Google, Microsoft, Jira, Confluence, GitHub, etc. And it just works. I don't have to learn anything new. I just go up to the search box. I say, what am I looking for? And then I get not only an AI answer, but I get all the related documents. I get all the related conversations. It's just there. Like, I can now search my entire enterprise just from Slack, and that stays right in the flow of work. I'm about to go on vacation here in a little bit. I know when I do, I'm going to have hundreds of channels that I'm going to have to catch up on. And I can literally just go and hit recaps. And I can say, I told the channels, full Slack, what channels are most important for me. I hit recaps. And I get this beautiful, like Sunday morning coffee update of all the things that have been happening in channels. And I can just read it in my leisure. Just a couple pages, done. I've caught up on like 300 channels with AI recaps. And so these are not about marketing and going through and making a big splash. This is about bringing AI just right into the flow of work.
Let's also just talk about the idea of invisible AI and why that's the next big shift.
Well, yeah, again, part of it is what's the increasing consumer expectation? I think you said it, 3-5 years from now, you're just going to kind of expect this to be there. We talk about AI as a very named thing right now. It's kind of like, I don't know what a good analogy is. It's back when the internet started and we would say www.linkedin.com, or, like no one says www anymore. Or so, these are things that are applied because it's new and we're looking to understand it. But, we look at very simple things like, a new feature that we haven't quite rolled out yet, but I'll give you the exclusive. But, it's a kind of a fun one inside of Slack. It's like I can click on an individual inside of Slack and I can see a profile summary. Now, what's cool about that is, every organization has their org charts. Here's what people do. But how often times have you asked yourself, like, what is that person working on? Or what are the things they're doing? And it turns out they're sharing their work in Slack. They're having public conversations in Slack. So I can click on your name, Shira, and I can see a summary of who you are, what department you're in. And then I can see, here's the latest thing Shira's working on. Here's what's on her mind. I can see an update of that. And it's like wildly, super helpful because instantly I feel more connected to you. And I didn't have to go and reach out and ask a bunch of dumb questions. I can just go, hey, I see you're working on this. This is incredible. I'd love to partner with you on that. So little simple things. And again, I don't have to interpret, oh, this is AI doing a bunch of whiz bang wizardry. It just works. It's invisible. It's just there. And we have feature after feature where we've rolled out inside of Slack that, again, just helps make people more productive in the flow of work without having to make them think.
So I guess to wrap this up, where do you see the future of work in the next 5 to 10 years?
Boy, that's always a fun one, tough one. Something I feel pretty certain about is that more and more of the workforce will move from doers to orchestrators. And I think that's a really cool thing. If you kind of, I don't know if I wish my job on anyone, I love my job. It's fun, but I do a lot of meetings, and like most of my job is spending time meeting with really thoughtful, people and teams, and reviewing, providing input and direction, some strategy. I get to spend a lot of time with customers and partners, obviously, wonderful people like yourself. But most of my job is orchestration, kind of at my current level. Now, what happens when orchestration can go down in the organization, and you can have more of the people today who are feeling like, hey, I'm doing a bunch of work, I'm doing a bunch of activity, but they can, in turn, to your point earlier, orchestrate work. They can ask those agents to go take care of, hey, document that workflow. Hey, go ahead and recap that podcast we just had with Ryan and pull off the 5 key messages so I can easily write a LinkedIn post about it. Hey, I'm going to go for a walk. Go ahead and create me some creative that's going to look great for the website update and make sure it builds off the last 3 years creative. Like, you're going to move to orchestrating work as an individual. And, people who learn how to be great orchestrators of work are going to scale their capacity beyond, what's honestly even imaginable today. And we're going to see that broken work system feel incredibly fluid.
I love that orchestrator. I feel like one, and I feel like that's kind of worked against me in the past sometimes, because people are like, you don't want to actually do the work. You just want to tell people what to do. But you know what? In the age of AI, it works, and I will lean into it. So appreciate that. Very empowering. And it's very specific as to what people should be looking out for in terms of skill set. And for those who I guess are worried, right? There's so many people that are worried. They don't know what to do. What advice do you have for them? How do they lean into their orchestrator side, or make sure they build the right skills for this next era?
Yeah, there's probably no magic silver bullet, but I would start with by being curious. Be curious. Find time to start to play with these tools and capabilities. So many of these AI tools offer, free versions that you can just go play with on the weekends. Come in with an idea. I will tell you, as someone who gets to hire people, it's always amazing when someone on your team comes in and was like, hey, I worked on this and I tried this new thing with this new tool and I want to show it to you. And like, that's just awesome. And it doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be something you end up using, but like that kind of curiosity, that, figuring out and rethinking stuff, that's the mode we need to be in this period. Like, there's going to be so much is going to change. The crazy stat of like ChatGPT got to like 500 million users in like 17 months, and Netflix got to 100 million in 10 years. Like, the pace of change is dizzying, and none of us can keep up with it. So if you can come along and be part of the team that's curious, that's helping people to see what's possible and play with new things, like, you've already got yourself like 80% of the way there. And so just stay being curious.
Ryan Gavin, thank you so much for joining us today. So appreciate your thoughtfulness, enthusiasm, and obviously great work you're doing over there. Thank you again.
Thank you. I love the chat and hope to do it again soon. Okay.
Yes, definitely. Well, we're not on Slack, but I'll see you out there. And of course, you could find Ryan on social media, LinkedIn. We'll put all the links in the show notes and the description of the show. And a big thanks again to our sponsor, Profit, AI comms tech tools and services custom built for marketing and communication leaders looking to replace guess with knowing. Learn more at prprofit.ai. And Hivelighter, we've got the AI download collection, all the links from today's headlines and from previous episodes, so it's easy to read more about these stories or share them with your friends and colleagues. Click the Hivelighter link in our show notes to get smarter. If you loved this episode, subscribe, rate, and share it. It helps me keep growing the show independently. And we've got so much more coming your way, so see you next time on the AI Download.